Welcome back to Building Character, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Dungeons & Dragons. Join the Patreon to vote for the Thing or Quicksilver, and like and subscribe to be cooler than cool next time you play. Maybe. Today we're building Killer Frost, also known as Caitlin Snow, Louise Lincoln, or Crystal Frost. Whether her name makes it obvious or not, she is a femme fatale with a heart as cold as ice. You should probably avoid messing with her unless you want to get the cold shoulder, and a couple of other really cold body parts. Let's start off with our goals for this build. First, you probably could have guessed this, but we need some cryomancy, mastery of ice. You should be freezing foes to finish them like you were a palette-swapped ninja in Mortal Kombat. Next, Frost is a heat vampire, stealing warmth and life force from others to fuel her own icy escapades. I wish there was a shorter word for icy escapade. Finally, we need to be able to hold our own in a fight, dodging attacks when we can and taking hits when we can't. For stats, we'll be using the standard point array. Roll for stats if you want, but if you do, I insist you replace your D6s with ice cubes. Don't blame me, them's the rules. Charisma will be number 1. You're actually called Killer Frost because you've got a killer personality. It has nothing to do with the murder. Dexterity next, you're pretty light on your feet. I'd imagine that would be the ice skating stat. Constitution after that, you're in the same universe as Superman, so it never hurts to have some hit points. Follow that up with intelligence. Like I said, sometimes Killer Frost is a scientist, but we just don't need this that much for the way the build ends up. Still doesn't hurt. Wisdom is a bit low and we'll dump strength. We just don't need either, so they end up at the bottom. To my knowledge, there isn't an ice person race in D&D at the moment, so we're gonna go custom lineage. That'll let us grab the elemental adept feat, selecting a damage type from the following list: acid, cold, fire, cold, lightning, cold, thunder, or even cold. When you cast a spell dealing that type of damage, you ignore resistance, and any damage die that's a 1 can be treated as a 2. Pick the one you think is best for a character named Killer Frost. If you thought I was gonna pick acid, I'm sorry, that's a very different character. That's Killer Sauce. Bump your charisma with your 2 free points. You're a scary lady at times, so grab intimidation as your free skill proficiency and make your own background for acrobatics and persuasion. Ice skating is probably acrobatics. That's what I figure about skating. We'll kick things off as a sorcerer, getting proficiency with deception and arcana so you can lie and understand your powers. We went with sorcerer so we could have a draconic bloodline, either selecting a silver or white dragon as the source for our power, or even more ice baby as we keep leveling up in the class. White dragons are the evil ones, so probably go with that. This also gives you proficiency with all charisma checks when interacting with a dragon, but Killer Frost doesn't do that yet. Draconic resilience makes you tougher than the typical sorcerer, giving you an extra hit point for every level you take, and when you're not wearing armor, your AC becomes 13 plus your dexterity modifier, as your icy exterior protects you from incoming attacks. All that cold magic boosting would go to waste if we didn't get spells, like Ice Knife, letting you summon an icicle and throw it at an enemy. On a hit, it deals 1d10 piercing damage. Any creature within 5 feet of the target, hit or miss, must make a dexterity saving throw or be subjected to 2d6 cold damage as the knife bursts into icy shards. Grab Shield, letting you use your reaction to raise your AC by 5 for a round, letting you possibly avoid damage with a little ice barrier. For cantrips, Ray of Frost lets you send a beam of cold at an enemy, making a ranged spell attack. On a hit, they take 1d8 cold damage and their speed is reduced by 10 feet, as their feet get frozen to the ground. Frostbite forces a constitution saving throw on a target within 60 feet, chilling them if they fail, dealing a d6 of cold damage and giving them disadvantage on their next weapon attack they make on their turn. Some of your spells are going to feel kind of redundant, but that's what happens when you stay committed to a gimmick. Shape Water lets you do a bunch of liquid ice stuff. You can change the flow of water, make it take whatever shape or color you want, and most importantly, it'll let you freeze the water at will. We really only wanted the last part, but you could reasonably use your ice powers to do the other things too. Finally, grab Mending to spend a minute to fix a small crack or tear in an inanimate object. Fuse things back together by super cooling the molecules. I don't know if that's how science works, but I'm willing to bet you don't either. Second level sorcerers get a Font of Magic you can use to recover spell slots for now. Cooler stuff next level. For this level spell, we'll grab Chromatic Orb. That lets you shoot a creature with 3d8 damage that can either be acid, cold, fire, cold. You get the idea. It's going to be cold because you're the cold-based supervillain. Well, one of 3 cold-based supervillains in the DC universe. Third level sorcerers get meta magic options to make your spells even better. Quickened Spell lets you cast a spell that normally takes an in action as a bonus action to flash freeze things. Very important to prevent them from sticking together in your freezer. Empowered spell lets you reroll a number of damage die equal to your charisma modifier. This is one of the only meta magic options you can use on a spell you've already altered with other meta magic options, so you can always make sure your spells are a little extra cold. Also grab Snillock's Snowball Swarm, making each creature within a 5-foot radius make a dexterity saving throw or get pelted with snowballs, taking 2d6 cold damage on a fail, half as much on a success. Don't forget, you're evil. Frost would definitely put a rock in her snowballs. 4th level sorcerers get our first ability score improvement or feat. We've got 2 odd numbered stats at the moment, so use your ability score improvement to increase your charisma and constitution by 1 for colder spells and a few more hit points. For your spell at this level, grab Rhyme's Binding Ice from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. That forces a constitution saving throw on creatures in a 30-foot cone. Failing that, they take 3d8 cold damage and become encased in ice with a movement speed of 0 for a minute or until another creature uses their action to free them. If the creature succeeds, they avoid the icy restraints and only take half damage. Relatively speaking, this is better the more movement speed the creature had, so it's great against the Flash. Movement speed is that dude's whole personality. 5th level sorcerers get 3rd level spells, and we're gonna grab 1 non-cold based spell just to mix things up a bit. When you cast Vampiric Touch, you can sap life force from enemies each turn as an action for a minute, making a melee spell attack you attempt to deal 3d6 necrotic damage and heal half that damage. This covers some of Killer Frost's heat stealing abilities, but we're gonna get even more in a bit. 6th level draconic sorcerers get elemental affinity. Now when you deal cold damage, you can add your charisma modifier to the damage rolls of that spell. Furthermore, you can spend a sorcery point to become resistant to cold damage for an hour after you cast a cold damaging spell. Now Mr. Freeze, Leonard, and Icicle Jr. won't hold a candle to your cryomantic skill, mostly because you just put the candle out with some ice magic or whatever. For this level spell, Sleet Storm lets you bring down freezing rain and ice upon a 20-foot tall, 40-foot radius cylinder. This heavily obscures the area and douses any flames within. See, I said you could use the ice magic to put out a candle. I wasn't lying. That's called setup and payoff. It's good writing. The area also becomes difficult terrain as it's covered in ice, forcing creatures to make a dexterity save or fall prone, and anyone concentrating on a spell in the area must make a constitution saving throw against your spell save DC or they lose concentration. Shut down Firestorm with this spell, then put them on ice. Hopping over to Warlock now, specifically a Fiendlock. Fiendlocks get Dark One's Blessing, meaning when you reduce a hostile creature to 0 HP, you gain temporary HP equal to your charisma modifier plus your Warlock level. This is a more consistent form of heat vampirism, literally sapping the life from your enemies. You also don't need to worry about multi-classic spellcasters because Warlocks get Pact magic, which doesn't change the number of sorcerer spell slots you have, just gives you some extra Warlock ones. So be cool, chill, 3rd ice joke. You also get some new spells. Armor of Agathis lets you cover yourself in icy protection. You get 5 temporary HP casting the spell at 1st level and an additional 5 temporary HP for every spell slot you go higher. While the temporary hit points remain, any creature that hits you with a melee attack will automatically take cold damage equal to the total number of temporary HP you gained when casting the spell. That means if you cast a spell with a 3rd level slot and the Flash hits you 4 times before he chips away down your protective coating, he takes 60 points of cold damage that you didn't even have to do anything to dish out. You can also grab Cause Fear, forcing an enemy to make a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of you until the spell ends. A minute later, you lose concentration or the target succeeds the save at the end of their turn during a subsequent round. You didn't get the nickname Killer Frost without being scary, so don't be afraid to send some of those boy wonders running home to mama or dad or no parents. Oh, That's a cold joke. You also get some more cantrips. We're gonna grab Friends. That gives you advantage on charisma checks made towards a creature that isn't hostile to you. Though after the spell ends, they'll know you used magic on them and they'll be mad. Lots of double crossing in the Suicide Squad. You can also take True Strike, letting you remind your audience not to get creepy in the comments just because the character in the video is a woman. It also lets you use your action to give yourself advantage on your next attack against the selected target on the following turn. That's not very useful, just attack twice. Second level Warlocks get to pick some Eldritch Invocations. They're like special feats only Warlocks get. They're also not as good as normal feats, but you get more of them, so it balances out. Grab Eldritch Mind, giving you advantage on concentration checks to maintain your spells so you can drain life force more reliably and keep future spells up when it matters most. We don't really need any other invocations. So grab Devil Sight to gain dark vision out to a range of 120 feet. That can even pierce through magical darkness, so now you can see with your bad metahuman eyes. It seems pretty reasonable to give her better eyesight. To be clear, I spelled that ICE hyphen NIGHT. You also get another first level spell from the warlock list, so grab Charm Person for a little more not quite mind control powers. That'll let you charm a humanoid within range that should fail a wisdom saving throw. Once charmed, the creature will regard you as a pal, and they won't be able to target you with any harmful effects. Third level warlocks can pick a PACT boon, so pick up the Pact of the Talisman. That gives you a piece of jewelry that can help you out when you need it most. When you fail an ability check, you can add a d4 to the roll to possibly turn it into a success. Let the heroes think that they finally got you, and then miraculously get away whenever the evil deed you were doing is, done. You can do this a number of times, equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. You can also give your talisman to someone else. Maybe you decide to do a redemption arc later and want to be nice to people. If you do decide to hand out your talisman to another member of the Suicide Squad, and Amanda Waller turns their head inside out, don't worry. You can spend an hour performing a ritual to make a new talisman. You can also learn second level warlock spells like blindness, deafness, letting you cover an enemy's eyes or ears with ice. If they fail a constitution saving throw, they can either no longer see or hear. Not everything you're using your ice for has to be murder. A lot of them are going to be murder, but sometimes it can be other stuff. Fourth level warlocks get another ability score improvement. Cap your charisma for the coldest ice and snow you can possibly muster. For this level spell, we're going to take another non-lethal ice spell with Earthbind, letting you keep that weirdo kite man from taking to the sky. If the target fails a strength saving throw, you freeze them to the ground or freeze their wings solid so they plummet to the ground at 60 feet per round. If they don't have wings, just freeze their legs or something when they're flying. The spell still works the same. Fifth level warlocks get another invocation. Tome of Levistus is kind of perfect for you. It'll let you use your reaction to completely encase yourself in ice when an attack is coming in. You gain 10 temporary HP per warlock level to soak up whatever damage you would have taken. The only downside is you're stuck in the ice until the end of your next turn, and after that initial damage, you become vulnerable to fire damage. Your speed is reduced to 0, and you're incapacitated. These effects end when the ice melts away, but so do your temporary hit points. It's honestly not the most useful move in combat, but with enough temporary HP, this could save your skin a couple of times. You can also grab Hold Person, letting you freeze a humanoid solid should they fail a wisdom saving throw. That'll paralyze them for up to a minute depending on your concentration. Remember, paralyzed creatures are incapacitated. They can't talk, automatically fail strength and dexterity saving throws. Attacks against them have advantage, and any attack made within 5 feet of the target is automatically a critical hit. So cast this spell to set up Harley for a grand slam with her baseball bat, and it's like she's playing t-ball. 6th level Fiend Warlocks get Dark One's Own Luck, letting you add a d10 to a less than stellar ability check or saving throw once per short or long rest. Killer Frost has a way of getting whatever she wants, and this will help you do it too. You can use this on death saving throws, so maybe save it for that, just in case. For your spell, grab Counterspell to undo any spell you don't want taking effect. It shuts down 3rd level spells automatically, and higher level spells with a charisma check equal to 10 plus the spell's level. Just use ice to shut down whatever's coming in. 7th level warlocks get one last invocation. Grab Mire of the Mind, letting you cast slow once per long rest using a warlock spell slot. That forces a wisdom saving throw on up to 6 creatures in a 40-foot cube. Failing that, they take a -2 penalty to their AC and dexterity saving throws. They can't use reactions and can only use an action or bonus action on their turn. They do use the attack action. They can only attack once. If they're trying to cast a spell, they have to roll a d20. On a 1 through 10, they get the spell off. On an 11 or higher, they fail and have to do it next round. People tend to move slower in colder weather. You can also pick up Elemental Bane, letting you pick a creature to make a Constitution saving throw. Pick a damage type, like cold. For the next minute, they take an extra 2d6 damage of that type every time they take that type of damage. It's cold. You can also remove the target's resistances to that damage type, but that's not really useful with Elemental Adept. Maybe you're fighting alongside another ice-based supervillain without the feat. Back over to Sorcerer now. 7th level sorcerers get 4th level spells, and it's time to pick up Ice Storm, bringing down a deluge of hail, ice, and snow in a 20-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder anywhere within 300 feet of you. Creatures in the area take 2d8 bludgeoning damage and 4d6 cold damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one, and the area becomes difficult terrain until the end of your next turn. That makes sense. A surprise snowstorm is really only fun when you're a kid, not fun when you're an adult. 8th level sorcerers get another ability score improvement or feat. Boost your dexterity to raise your AC and make yourself a bit more acrobatic. For this level spell, we'll take Fire Shield, which will either create a chill or warm shield, giving you resistance to cold damage or fire damage, and dealing 2d8 fire or cold damage to creatures that hit you with a melee attack. Stacking it with Armor of Agathis, this is the ultimate icy protection. Since neither of those spells require concentration, you can even concentrate on a 3rd spell. 9th level sorcerers get 5th level spells, and Cone of Cold is going to be the obvious pick. It forces a Constitution saving throw on creatures in a 60-foot cone, dealing 8d8 cold damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. Anybody killed by the spell becomes an ice sculpture, so it's great for decorating too. 10th level sorcerers get another meta magic option. We're going to go with Careful Spell. You've been on enough teams at this point. That'll let you choose a number of creatures equal to your charisma modifier to automatically pass the saving throws of your spells. That's only going to be like half damage, but you're not that nice. For this level spell, Hold Monster. It's like Hold Person, but you can freeze a monster instead. instead of a person. 11th level sorcerers can get 6th level spells. Investiture of Ice will make you an ice lady, not a nice lady. You become immune to cold damage and resistant to fire damage. Any difficult terrain caused by ice or snow doesn't cost you extra movement. The area around you freezes, making the ground difficult terrain within 10 feet of you, and you can use your action to make a 15-foot cone, forcing a constitution saving throw on creatures inside and dealing 4d6 cold damage and having the creature's speed if they fail, half damage, and no slowing if they succeed. It's just a whole suite of ice buffs that you can pair with Fire Shield and Armor of Agathis all at the same time. Make this the concentration option. 12th level sorcerers get our last ability score improvement, raise your dexterity by 1 for an almost capped off AC score. Our last level is the 13th level of sorcerer, giving us 7th level spell slots, but we're actually going to grab another 6th level spell with Tulok's Freezing Sphere. That creates a 60-foot radius sphere, and any creature inside must make a constitution saving throw. On a fail, they take 10d6 cold damage, half as much on a success. It also freezes water or liquid, trapping creatures swimming in that water. So if you find yourself by the bay, this is a great one to use. Now that we've hit level 20, let's figure out how viable this build is. First, you've got a bunch of cold spells that deal a bunch of damage, and you can ignore resistances on those. You're also great at staying alive, stealing life force from your enemies to make yourself stronger. Finally, you've got passive damage. With Fire Shield and Armor of Agathis, hurting enemies who are hitting you with melee attacks, you don't really even have to do anything. For weaknesses, focusing on a single damage type isn't all that great. There are enemies that are fully immune to cold damage and you have nothing for them. You've also got low strength, so you could end up getting pushed around or grappled. Finally, temporary HP doesn't stack, so you've got a lot of sources that give you temporary HP, but you can't put it on top of each other. But who cares about that? Be the true Ice Queen and freeze all those supers. Steal their heat to keep yourself going and show the world what killed the dinosaurs. The ice! Oh, that's a Mr. Freeze joke. Huh. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe for more. We make 2 videos every week. Join the Patreon for this character sheet and a whole bunch more, and sub to Tulok and Mango for more Tulok fun.